as the Sixers take on the Knicks. But I want to open up, Tom, and kind of get your take. You've been around this team for a long time, and specifically over the last couple of years. Do you feel that the mentality has shifted on this team now as we enter this game against the Knicks tonight, where all of a sudden it feels like when a team is in town, you feel like, hey, we should beat this team? And I don't know that that's something that you've said at all over the last couple of seasons.
Well, good afternoon, Mike. Long time since we've spoken, and it's great to be on your program, Sports Bash. And, yeah, I mean, I go into a lot of games thinking about it from my perspective, just the angle, and you're right. And sometimes you walk away disappointed. But this is certainly – and I've even heard, like, for example, Sunday in Brooklyn, T.J. McConnell say this is a winnable game. And that's sort of how, you know, I'm not saying the players or the management or the coaching staff think that way, but obviously certain games come up where you're like, all right, this is a possibility here tonight. And the way the Knicks have struggled a little bit, they've got a little discord going on, and the Sixers have won 3 or 4, and they're playing well. I think so. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, I'm actually excited for going forward is that these are division games. You've got to start chunking away at your home. You've got to dominate at home, or at least be really good at home. You got to beat your division opponent, all those types of things. And that hasn't been, you know, top of mind of late just because of the development and everything that the Sixers have gone through. So tonight, certainly, you know, like a coach looks for consistency at any level in any sport. They want to see an athlete do the same thing well and do what they're known to do night in and night out. For the Sixers, be consistent. Don't throw a clunker out. I don't want to see a clunker. I want to see a great effort. And if you win the game, well, sometimes you don't win them all. You know what I'm saying? Obviously. But you just want to play, and if it's a competitive game and it doesn't go your way, you can live with that. That's what I'm looking for in a game like tonight against New York.
Tom, have you seen – now you've called them all through the bad, the good, the ugly over the last couple of years. Have you seen consistent progress this season?
Well, again, not 100%. No, I go back to the Lakers game. That was certainly one that would fit into the category that we've spoke of. And that was not a good game for the Sixers. So that's what I mean. Like, you know, like Doug Collins used to say, I can live with that, about a shot that didn't go. We ran the right play. We got a good shot. It didn't go. That's kind of what I'm saying about a larger thing about a game. As long as you're executing, you keep your turnovers down, and, you know, sometimes teams beat you. So, you know, not consistently. You know, you definitely haven't been seeing that night in and night out. And hopefully now, certainly from now to the end of the season, you're in a position where most of the time you see that kind of thing and you kind of know what you're going to get.
Tom McGinnis, the voice of the 76ers right here on 97.3 ESPN tonight against the Knicks. Coach was on with us yesterday, and he talked a little bit about Ben Simmons and just the energy and the good feeling he brought to see him out on the floor. He's been around the team the last week or so. Have you sensed that is a little jolt, a little jump, that the light is at the end of the tunnel for this young man, that, okay, there's another piece that is starting to get into the fold now, and they're implementing them into what they do on a daily basis?
Well, obviously, you have to defer to the coach. That's what Brett Brown felt. He's out there with a whistle in his hand, so absolutely. And you can understand why. This is a prime-time talent. This guy's got a lot of ability, and he's not been implemented into everything. He did 5-on-none drills, but to be honest, I was sitting there watching practice, and boom, I got to the edge of my seat. So he's running through things, so he'll be more familiar when he's actually able to scrimmage and like that, and then eventually take the court. But there's no doubt about it. I mean, I look at that Brooklyn game. He was out there on the court high-fiving his teammates, you know, and it's obvious that we have the number one pick, and somebody has the upside potential that everybody hopes will evolve and develop into a superstar player. There's no doubt that that's going to pick it up. Players know. I mean, the players must have known, you know, like must have known what they saw in Embiid, you know, like that we didn't always see, but they saw him working. They must have, oh man, here comes a stud. This guy's going to be unbelievable. Guys, no, you can't fool players on any level. Not the coaches, not the training staff. These guys, they're pretty shrewd about their game. So there's no doubt they know they got a potential star player in Ben Simmons has entered the gym.
Tom McGinnis with us. 5-7 the Sixers are since Noel has kind of got some regular playing time here. I know that situation's tough. Coach talked about it yesterday. There's no definitive answer, I guess, to that. But what does Noel add and bring to this team that was maybe missing because they're 5-7 with him out there?
Well, he definitely is an energizer-type player. You know, you're not going to run a lot of offensive plays for Nerlens, but you throw it up top, he's going to come crashing down with an alley-oop jam. He's a guy who affects a lot of plays defensively. You know, we hear so much about rim protection. He's a guy that can bring that element to your defense, which makes your whole team better. And Nerlens is a type of guy who's, you know, he might be better suited for this role where he's not the 40-minute a night guy. He's a guy who comes in and helps out, and it's kind of a change. If we talk about a change of pace player offensively, I think he could be maybe a change of pace player defensively, and bring that to the Sixers and play a role. You need all different sorts of things, and you don't need 8 unbelievable scorers. You need, you know, a lot of different parts and elements to add to the chemistry of your team. And Nerlens is certainly, he's played well. He's had some good seasons in the last 2 years for the Sixers.
He sure has, and he is an energy guy. I mean, that is one thing. So it was kind of disheartening to see what he had to go through to kind of get to this point. But, you know, maybe his legs weren't under him. They had their reasons. But when he is out there, he does seem like a guy who brings a lot of energy. And then you see Jahlil, what you saw from him last year, and seeing him kind of struggle along, even when he was playing, he didn't seem like he was in the same flow or rhythm. And you can maybe talk to that more than me because you see him every night. But just didn't seem like he was in the same flow or rhythm that he had been in. Because last year, on the offensive side of the ball, he was a very good player. He's got a little ways to come on the defensive side of the ball. I think he knows that, and we know that. But he doesn't seem like he is in the same flow that he was in offensively last year.
Well, he got the ball when they did play together, speaking of Embiid and Okafor, he got the ball down low, and in those instances he was. But when, you know, and that's what he does. He catches the ball on the baseline. He makes a spin move, gets to the rack. He catches the ball at the foul line. He's able to face up and hit that shot or spin to the basket. Now, when Joe's in there and Embiid's in the middle, I don't know that Jahlil has ever played with that being the case. It's very difficult for him. So it's going to be an adjustment, you know, and he's had a tremendous attitude. We spoke to him yesterday after practice, and he kind of understands the situation. He's a very talented player. And, you know, things are going to sort themselves out. And I think he's got a tremendous – he's going to be a very good player in this league for years to come. And this thing has to get situated with the Sixers with their big guys. And Jahlil's got – I mean, again, I think he's going to be an 18-point-per-game scorer for the rest of his career. And this is just – the Sixers have to work through this and, you know, go through the combinations and like that. And he might not play this night. You know, it's just an unusual situation, but he's been great about it, and I think he's going to be a very good to great player in this league.
Yeah, I mean, it is odd. He's a number 3 pick in the draft, and it's not like he was a bust. I mean, he came out last year and was maybe hit the best player they had last year, but the most consistent night-to-night player they had last year, and here he is now not playing at all. So I know Brett has said he's experimenting at the same time trying to win games, but how much does that kind of show that there's a much more defensive approach that they are taking to this team right now? And I think that's not only Nerlens, but you also look at McConnell. I think that is another big thing that is under the radar, that TJ has been excellent on the defensive point as opposed to when they were splitting time up there. They weren't getting great defense at that position.
Well, that's the foundation with which Brett Brown wants to go forward, and that's what championship teams are built on, is that defensive ability. So, you know, I think that might be why Nerlens is in there. I think that's what you're referring to in terms of he and Jahlil. Let's face it, when Joe's in there, you got to keep Embiid by the rim. There was a play, Mike, in that Sunday game in Brooklyn where, and I saw this on the highlights or something watching Sportsnet, you know, Monday or whenever. But, like, he challenges on the wing. He gets back to the elbow and guards, and then that Justin Hamilton kid who played a nice game from LSU, he's baseline left, and John's like, oh, you, boom, he swats it out of bounds. Like, he guarded that whole side of the floor on one sequence, and that's how good he is. So you can't take Embiid out of that scenario, and for that, maybe Nerlens could guard some force, but again, the way the NBA is today, you got to go out and guard the Ilyasovas, the Ryan Andersons of the world. They're going to shoot the ball from the perimeter. And I don't know that that's Jahlil's strength, and it may never be his strength. You can effort that and coach that, but that certain talents are not within the wherewithal. So that's part of the equation, I think, with Jaleel and with the pairing of Jaleel and Joel.
Yeah, that is a tough spot for these old school fours, right? You used to call them like the old school power forwards, the Karl Malones of the world, the Charles Oakleys. I mean, how would they have fit in today's game?
Well, the game's changed. You know, those were very good players. I mean, Karl Malone's arguably one of the greatest power forwards in the history of the game, but he didn't take a lot of 3-point shots, and that's just.
And he wasn't defending out on the perimeter.
Yeah, no, the game has changed. There's certainly a spot for those players. I'm from that era too myself in terms of going back as a fan, but no, it's changed, and it's the way the threes are attempted, and the way the skill set of these young players, particularly international players, come into the fray. It's a little bit different, that's for sure.
There's no question. I was thinking about that the other night, that era of players and those great players, the guys that, were really those four men. That position has completely almost been wiped out of this league. Not completely out. There's guys who are that guy, but they're having a hard time, talented guys who are having a hard time adjusting to what their role is in this league now. And where do you see those kind of guys going?
Well, I guess one of them today would be Kenneth Faried. He's that kind of player. I don't know that he goes out there and takes a lot of threes. Athletically, he could probably guard the perimeter. But things are cyclical. I mean, everyone said the center was dead, and here we are talking about 3 centers on one team, and every team we play has got a competent center, and sometimes more than one. So I think that's been overplayed a little bit by both the media and just in general. And that type of thing, the power forward, the Maurice Lucases, the enforcer role. First of all, you can't play as physically as the Rodmans and those types of players played back in that era. But we'll see. I mean, players, they have a way of, kind of morphing into what pays and what plays well and what becomes part of a championship contending team. And, we'll see. I mean, if that's a guy growing up that way, then he's going to have to grow his skill set, like through the high school, AAU, college ranks, or he's, like you say, he might be the odd man out.
Yeah, I was listening to Allah was talking about this during the television broadcast on Sunday, and he mentioned it used to have 96 minutes for the two bigs. You have two guys who can split 96. Now you're really looking at only 48 minutes to split up because the one guy's not really, a 4 or a center anymore. They got to go out and guard on the perimeter. So those minutes have been kind of chopped up, and you're seeing that crunch with the Sixers right now. Tom McGinnis, the voice of the 76ers, right here on 97.3 ESPN. I want to get your thoughts on what Ersan Ilyasova has brought to this team in terms of what maybe they've been missing the last couple of years, because he seems like a quiet guy, but he seems like he's been a great fit for what they've been looking for.
Well, he is a quiet guy because we end up sitting on the bus together going over to the game, and other than a hello, he's not loquacious, and that's fine. Here he is in another country. He's been with a bunch of different teams, but he's been terrific. You could argue, I mean, Embiid is certainly in the last few games with the 20-plus points, but there was a time there where Ilyasova was the best player on the team. I mean, the production was there, and boy, I just wish two of those shots in Boston would have gone down, and the Sixers would have walked out of there in the Garden with a victory. But again, good looks, as I talked about earlier. You can live with that. Good opportunity. He's been terrific. He's a very good player. He's added a lot. It's one of these things you often hear coaches say, well, until I got him in my own gym, I didn't realize this. And just in general about when you acquire a player via trade, particularly in the middle of the season or without a training camp, and you hear about his defense, but then you watch him take these charges, and it's living, breathing, good help side defense, and he's been terrific. So he's 6'10", and certain players play with other players more competently, and he's certainly fit that mold, if you will, with Embiid. He's been a terrific addition, a great trade for the Sixers.
Sure has. And we'd be remiss not to talk a little bit about Joel, who had his 6th straight 20-point game. He's played less than 30 minutes in all 6 of those games. He's the first player to record 6 straight games with at least 20 points in fewer than 30 minutes ever. That shows you just how how unbelievable this guy has been in terms of he's putting up these numbers and not even playing a full brigade of minutes here. But what surprises you about him? You see him every night. I listened to some of the calls you make. It sounds like you're surprised at some of the things that you're watching as it's going on.
Right, and that's what's neat about a unique talent, The one thing, I guess, if you're going to be surprised at anything, is that the opportunity, the growth, there's so much there because he hasn't, because he's in and out of the game. Like, I feel for him so much at that 8-minute mark of the opening quarter when he's coming out. Like the other day, sometimes he's on a roll. He's already got 7 points in 4 minutes. And you're like, oh, man, he's got to come out. Or the other game in Brooklyn, he gets a foul with Brook Lopez. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't get into the rhythm. And he's like, well, come on. I don't have anything going. And I don't know what he's thinking, but you can kind of read the language, the nonverbal cues. And so that, like, to where he hasn't, like, gotten into a rhythm of catching the ball on the block. And, like, he did that in the Brooklyn game where he turned and faced and he made 3 face-up jumpers against Lopez in a row. That kind of thing where he dictates to the defense what's going to happen. Like, oh, you're going to double me? Then we're going to go bing, bang, bing, and we're going to get somebody a shot on the offside. To where when he plays more consistent minutes and can stay out of foul difficulty and doesn't have a minutes restriction, where he really gets into the rhythm of his game and gets more into the flow and knows he's going to be out there. Because, again, Mike, the guy hasn't played, not just in the last 2 years, but he was hurt the last part of his freshman year at Kansas, which was his only collegiate season. He played in the college ranks. When he first got into college, I remember talking to somebody earlier this year, he didn't even play that much. It was, I can't remember just off the top of my bald head, but it was somebody else played in front of him. So this guy's really, he's going to get so much better. That's what surprises me. The numbers that he's produced, the hand-eye coordination, the foot speed, the athletic ability for a man of that size, the competitive drive. He's got a little bit of nasty in him. The whole package is there. He has, without question, this is no headline breaker here, but he has the ability to be one of, if not the best player in the NBA in the next couple, 3, 4, 5 years.
And he backs it up, too. And Tom, he wants the ball. He said the other night, I loved it. He said, I don't think I got the ball enough in the third quarter. He wants the ball late. The guy's like Happy Gilmore. He's at the line, and he's telling the crowd to cheer louder. He wants more people to cheer when he's at the line. Most guys want it quiet. He seems like nothing distracts him. He's fun. I mean, he is a guy who it seems that you got your thumb on. When you're a franchise and you're trying to find a player, you handpick a guy like this if you have the opportunity to.
Well, absolutely, and that's what I think the Sixers saw when they drafted him. And you're right, he is. He's a foundational player, and hopefully he'll be healthy and the Sixers' star player for many years to come. And they'll build around a player like that. This has sort of been the plan, to find a star player, add around it, and try to drive for playoff opportunities, sustained success, championships for many years to come.
Well, they'll play the Knicks tonight, a team that has their own couple stars. You'll see, obviously, Carmelo and Porzingis. Rose looks like he's going to start, so it should be a fun night at the center, and you'll hear all the action with Tom McGinnis calling it right here on 97.3 ESPN. That coverage starts at 7 o'clock. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you, my friend.
You too, Mike. Thanks for the time.